Yuval Noah Harari, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Digital dictatorships. AI often frightens people because they don't trust the AI to remain obedient. We have seen too many science fiction movies about robots rebelling against their human masters, running amok in the street and slaughtering everyone. Yet the real problem with the robot is exactly the opposite. You should fear them because they will probably always obey their masters and never rebel. There is nothing wrong with blind obedience, of course, as long as the robot happens to serve benign masters. Even in warfare, reliance on killer robots could ensure that for the first time in history, the laws of war would actually be obeyed on the battlefield. Human soldiers are sometimes driven by their emotion to murder, pillage, and rape in violation of the rules of war. We usually associate emotions with compassion, love, and empathy. But wartime, the emotions that take control are all too often fear, hatred, and cruelty. Since robots have no emotions, they could be trusted to always adhere to the dry letter of military code and never be swayed by personal fears or hatred. On March 16, 1968, a company of American soldiers went to Passac in the South Vietnamese village of My Lai and massacred about 400 citizens. This war crime resulted from the local initiative of men who had been involved in jungle guerrilla warfare for several months. I did not serve any strategic purpose and contravenes both U.S. legal code and military policy. It was a fault of human emotions. If the United States have deployed killer robots in Vietnam, the massacre of My Lai never would have occurred. Nevertheless, before we rush to deploy and develop and deploy killer robots, we need to remind ourselves that the robots already reflect and amplify the qualities of their code. If the code is restrained and benign, the robot will probably be a huge improvement over the average human soldier. Yet, if the code is ruthless and cruel, the result will be catastrophic. The real problem with the robot is not their own artificial intelligence, but rather the natural stupidity and cruelty of their human masters. In July 1995, Bosnian Serb troops massacred more than 8,000 Muslim Bosniaks around the town of Srebrenica. Unlike the haphazard My Lai massacre, the Srebrenica killing was a protracted and well-organized operation that reflected Bosnian Serb policy to ethnically cleanse Bosnia of Muslims. If the Bosnian Serbs had killer robots in 1995, it would likely have made the auto crash worse rather than better. Not one robot would have had a moment hesitation carrying out whatever orders it received, and none would have spared the life of a single Muslim child due to feeling of compassion, disgust, and mere visage. A ruthless dictator armed with such a killer robot will never have fear that his soldier will turn against him, no matter how heartless or crazy his orders. A robot army would probably have strangled the French Revolution in its cradle in 1789. And if it's 2011, Hosni Mubarak had a contingent of killer robots, he could have unleashed them on the populace without fear of defection. Similarly, an imperialist government relying on a robot army could wage unpopular war without any concern that its robot might lose their motivation or that their families might stage protest. If the United States had had a killer robot in the Vietnam War, the My Lai massacre might have been prevented, but the war itself could have dragged on for many more years because the American government would have had fewer worries about demoralized soldiers, massive anti-war demonstration, or a movement of veteran robots against the war. Some American citizens might still have objected to the war, but without fear of being drafted themselves, the memory of personally committing atrocities was the painful loss of their relative. The protesters probably would have been both less numerous and less committed. These kinds of problems are far less relevant to autonomous civilian vehicles, since no car manufacturers would maliciously program its vehicle to target and kill people. Yet, autonomous weapon systems are a catastrophe waiting to happen because too many governments tend to be ethically corrupt, if not downright evil. The danger is not restricted to killing machines. Surveillance systems could be equally risky. In the hand of a benign government, powerful surveillance algorithms could be the best thing that ever happened to mankind. Yet, the same big data algorithm might also empower the future Big Brother, so we might end up with an Orwellian surveillance regime in which all individuals are monitored all the time. In fact, it might end up with something that even Orwell could barely imagine, a total surveillance regime that follows not just all our external activities and utterance, but can even go under our skin to observe our inner experiences. Consider, for example, what the Kim regime in North Korea might do with the new technology in the future, which North Korean citizens might be required to wear the biometric bracelet that monitors everything the person does and says, as well as their blood pressure and brain activity. By using their growing understanding of the human brain and drawing on the immense power of machine learning, the North Korea regime might be able for the first time in history to gauge what each and every citizen is thinking each and every moment. If North Korea look at a picture of Kim Jong-un and the biometric sensor pick up the telltale sign of anger, higher blood pressure, increased activity in the amygdala, that person will be in the gulag tomorrow morning. Granted, due to its isolation of North Korea regime might have difficult developing the required technology by itself. However, the technology might be pioneered in more witch-savvy nations and copied and bought by the North Korea and other backward dictatorships. Both Korea and Russia are constantly improving their surveillance tools, as are the number of democratic countries, ranging from the United States to my home country, Israel. Nicknamed the startup nation, Israel has an extremely vibrant high-tech sector and a cutting-edge cybersecurity industry. At the same time, it's also locked in a deadly conflict with Palestine, and lest some its leaders, generals, and citizens might well be happy to create a total surveillance regime in the West Bank as soon as they have the necessary technology. Already today, whenever Palestine make a phone call, post something on Facebook, or travel from one city to another, they are likely to be monitored by Israel microphones, cameras, drones, or spy software. The gathered data is then analyzed with the aid of big data algorithm. This helps the Israel security forces to pinpoint and neutralize potential threat without having to place too many boots on the ground. The Palestinians may administer some towns and villages in the West Bank, but Israel controls the sky, the airwaves, and cyberspace. If they take surprisingly few Israeli soldiers to effectively control about 2.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank. In one tragicomic incident in October 27th, Palestine liberal posted to his private Facebook account a picture of himself in his workplace alongside a bulldozer. Adjacent to the image, he wrote, "Good morning." Automatic algorithm made a small error when transliterating the Arabic letters instead of Yasa Benchem, which means good morning. The algorithm identified the letter as Yaba Chufung, which means hurt them. Suspecting that the man might be a terrorist intending to use a bulldozer to run people over. Israel security forces swiftly arrested him. He was released after they realized that the algorithm made a mistake, but the offending Facebook post was nevertheless taken down. You can never be too careful. What Palestinians are experiencing today in the West Bank might be just a primitive preview of what billions will eventually experience all over the planet.